What they don't tell you about medieval knights, boring history for sleep. They tell you tales of gleaming armor and noble honor of knights who fought dragons, saved maidens, and rode into sunsets with banners of gold. But that's the lie, history dressed in shining metal. The real story of the medieval knight begins not with glory, but with dirt, fear, and the sound of a hammer beating on blood-rusted steel. It begins in the chill of the 11th century dawn, when the air smelled of smoke and sweat, and the world was ruled not by kings but by hunger. Europe was fractured, crawling out of the ruins of Rome like a wounded animal, and power belonged to whoever could swing a sword without trembling. Out of this chaos, the knight was born not as a hero, but as a weapon. The boy who would one day be called Sir didn't begin life in a castle. He began it in mud. His hands blistered from pulling the plow, his stomach hollow from winters when the crops died. But somewhere beyond the smoke of the hearth, he heard the thunder of hoofs, the sound of men who ruled the land by iron and faith. And something inside him whispered, "I will be one of them." Knighthood wasn't about justice. It was a business, a brutal profession dressed in poetry. Every sword stroke meant land, coin, and favor. And every drop of blood spilled beneath that shining armor was the tax that bought their place in history. When you imagine a knight, you see silver armor, polished and perfect. But in truth, a knight's armor reeked of oil, horse sweat, and fear. The metal trapped heat like a coffin. Every movement was agony, every breath a struggle. Inside that suit was a man trembling, sweating, praying he wouldn't die before the trumpet called the charge. And yet, they did it again and again. For lords. For God. For gold. Mostly for the dream that they mattered. By the time Europe reached the height of the Middle Ages, knights were more than soldiers, they were walking propaganda. Cathedrals and kings painted them as divine instruments, warriors chosen by heaven. But behind every crusade sermon, there was politics. Behind every oath of chivalry, there was property to seize, peasants to control, and power to protect. Chivalry, that shining word carved on tombstones and textbooks, was a myth invented to make killers look holy. The code was rarely followed. Knights pillaged villages, burned crops, and slaughtered innocents as often as they prayed. They could speak of honor by day and commit horrors by night, and history, written by their patrons, would call it valor. They were not monsters. They were human, which made them far more dangerous. A knight could write a poem in the morning and cut a man in half by afternoon. He could weep before a relic, then ride out to burn his neighbor's field. He lived in a world where brutality was not evil, it was necessary. But the strange thing about the medieval knight was not his violence, it was his belief. In a world where most people feared the dark, knights believed they were the light. Their swords were baptized in the blood of their enemies. Their banners bore crosses, lions, and saints. They thought God stood beside them in every charge, even when their lances shattered and their brothers fell screaming beneath their horses. Imagine the clang of that world, iron on iron, hoofs pounding through mud, the cries of men crushed under their own armor. And above it all, the banners snapping in the wind, crimson, gold, black. That sound, that color, that chaos, it was the music of the Middle Ages. Knighthood wasn't earned in books. It was earned in blood. A boy began as a page, running errands, cleaning weapons, learning manners that hid the violence he would soon embrace. By 14, he became a squire, shadowing a knight, watching him ride into battle and sometimes die in it. If he survived his training, and if his master saw fit, the boy would kneel one dawn before his lord, a sword laid across his shoulders, and rise a knight. But the ceremony was just theater. The real knighting happened the first time he killed. No one tells you that part: the shaking hands, the eyes that won't close, the blood that won't wash away. Because that's not the story kings want remembered. They want you to think knights were angels in armor. They were not. They were men who learned to smile while dying. And yet, somehow, in that world of mud and blood, beauty still lived. Knights built cathedrals that reached toward heaven, carved songs into stone, wrote poems for women they could never touch. They dreamed of honor, even when they failed it. They believed that the world could be more than violence even if all they knew was war. This contradiction, this blend of cruelty and courage, is what makes the medieval knight one of history's greatest paradoxes. They were both protectors and predators, saints and sinners, dreamers and destroyers. And it's in that tension, between light and shadow, that their true story lies. So, forget what the textbooks told you. Forget the fairy tales. This is the real history of ambition and arrogance, of courage and corruption. It's the story of how a handful of men in iron reshaped the world, and how the world eventually outgrew them. Because the age of knights did not die in battle, it rusted. Armor grew heavier, guns grew louder, and chivalry, that fragile illusion, cracked beneath the weight of truth. But for a few shining centuries, men believed in the lie so fiercely that it became real. And that belief changed history forever. The birth of the knightly order. The world that birthed the knight was one of fear. After the fall of Rome, there were no empires, no maps, no order, only lords with swords and men who followed them because it was safer than starving. Europe was a chessboard of chaos, and every castle was a clenched fist. It began with land. Land was everything: food, wealth, and power, all pressed into the dirt beneath a man's boots. A king might claim a kingdom, but he could not defend it alone. So he broke his power into pieces, gifting fiefs to loyal men who swore oaths of service. These men became lords. And the warriors they raised to protect that land? Those were the first knights, the shock troops of feudalism, born from necessity, baptized by conquest. But this system was no elegant design, it was brutal efficiency. A lord promised protection to the peasants who tilled his fields. In return, they fed him. He promised soldiers to his king. In return, the king granted him more land. It was a pyramid of promises, and at the top, glittering in gold, sat the illusion of order. Beneath that illusion was blood. Every knight began as someone's servant. To become noble, you had to be useful with a blade, useful in war, useful in loyalty. And so, the sons of lesser nobles were sent away at 7 years old, torn from their mothers, sent to live in the castles of greater men. There, they learned to ride, to hunt, to bow, to bleed. They served at tables, polished armor, held the reins of horses they would one day command. Their lives were built on waiting for their chance to prove themselves. When it came, it usually smelled like smoke. Picture it, a summer dawn somewhere in Normandy, 1066. A lord's banner rises in the mist, a lion rampant, claws like flames. A boy squire watches as knights mount up, their armor dull gray, their horses steaming in the cold air. He hears the order to ride, feels his heart slam in his chest, and knows this is the moment that decides everything. That year, the Normans would cross the Channel and change England forever. The Battle of Hastings wasn't just the conquest of a kingdom, it was the moment the knight became legend. On that field, where Saxon shields locked tight and Norman lances shattered, Europe saw the future of war. The knight, fast, armored, unstoppable, was the new god of battle. From there, the image spread like wildfire. France, Germany, Italy all began forging their own orders of mounted warriors, each bound by oaths of loyalty and faith. They became not just soldiers, but symbols walking banners of authority. A knight's sword was not just steel, it was law. His armor was not just protection, it was privilege made visible. But the church saw something dangerous in these warriors. They were too powerful, too untamed. And so, the church did what it always did best: it sanctified them. It told knights that their swords were instruments of God, that their wars were holy, that their duty was to defend the weak, the widow, and the faith. It wrapped violence in virtue and called it chivalry. And the knights, desperate for purpose beyond blood, believed it. But chivalry was never real. It was theater for the soul, a way to make slaughter look sacred. You see, knights did not ride to protect peasants. They were the reason peasants needed protecting. They taxed, they burned, they took what they wanted. And when they fought, villages vanished between their rivalries. The church's blessing made it easier to live with the guilt. So long as a knight fought for God, he could believe his sins were sanctified. And that belief, that righteous violence would soon ignite the greatest wars of the Middle Ages, the Crusades. In the 11th century, word came from the east: Jerusalem, the city of Christ, was in the hands of infidels. And with that spark, Europe caught fire. Knights, who had spent generations killing each other for scraps of land, suddenly found a cause that made their violence holy. The Pope promised them salvation, forgiveness of all sins, if they took up the cross and rode to reclaim the Holy Land. It was the perfect storm of greed, faith, and glory. The roads of Europe filled with banners and bodies. Tens of thousands marched, each believing they were part of something eternal. For the first time, the knight was not just a servant of his Lord, he was a soldier of God. But God's wars were ugly. The first Crusaders reached Jerusalem in 1099, starved, diseased, half dead. When the city finally fell, they did not kneel in prayer. They killed everyone, men, women, children, until the streets ran red and the mosques filled with bodies. Chroniclers say the blood reached their knees. Whether that's true or not doesn't matter. What matters is that they believed it was victory, that God smiled upon their slaughter. And when they returned home, they brought with them stories of heaven and hell made flesh, and more power than any king could control. Knighthood, by then, had become an institution, a culture. Families bred knights like horses. Armorers forged steel for generations. Songs were written, banners sewn, castles raised higher and thicker. It was a golden age of steel and of hypocrisy. Because for every knight who prayed before battle, 100 peasants prayed because of it. The Middle Ages were not a time of romance. They were a time of terror, when a man on horseback could decide whether your village lived or burned. But in that same darkness, the myth grew brighter. Troubadours sang of honor, of damsels, of courtly love tales to soften the iron truth. And for a moment, the knight began to believe his own legend. He began to see himself not as a killer, but as a guardian of virtue, a servant of faith, a hero in shining armor. History would remember that illusion, not the screams, not the smoke. And maybe that's what humans do best: we remember beauty, not blood. The Crusaders' cross, when knights became gods. The first thing they did was sew the cross to their tunics. Not in silk or silver, but in rough red cloth, cut by trembling hands. That cross was more than a symbol, it was a contract. A promise written in blood between man and heaven: kill for God, and God will forgive you. And with that, the knight became something new, a crusader. They marched from the forests of France and the green hills of England, through lands they'd never seen, chasing a dream they could barely imagine: the Holy City. They left behind wives, children, farms, debts because what waited ahead was supposed to erase everything behind. If they died on the road, they believed their souls would rise straight to paradise. No purgatory. No waiting. No judgment. Just glory. But the road to glory was long, and it stank of death. They crossed mountains that broke armies, deserts that boiled the flesh from bone. Horses collapsed by the thousands. Armor rusted to the skin. They drank water black with flies and ate what they could steal or tear from the ground. By the time they reached the walls of Jerusalem, they were more ghosts than men. And yet, when the gates fell, the ghosts became monsters. Knights who had prayed for salvation now waded through blood in the name of God. They killed everything that moved: Muslims, Jews, even Christians who prayed differently. The city burned, and the cross shone red in the flames. When word reached Europe, the people called it a miracle. They didn't see the corpses. They saw victory. And the knight, the armored butcher of the battlefield, became a saint. But heaven is a fragile crown, and blood always washes it away. The Crusades did not end with Jerusalem. They became an industry. New waves followed: the second, the third, the endless tides of holy war. Kings joined, popes plotted, merchants grew rich. Behind every sermon, a ledger was being filled. Faith was the banner, but gold was the fuel. And at the center of it all, the knight stood shining, half hero, half executioner. The Templars, the Hospitallers, the Teutonic Knights, names that still echo like thunder across the ruins of time. They were the military orders, born from the Crusades, brotherhoods of men who swore vows of poverty, chastity, obedience, and war. They lived in stone fortresses built on blood. They rode under black and white banners, crosses stitched across their chests, blades sharp enough to cut through faith itself. To their enemies, they were devils in armor. To their followers, they were angels with swords. In truth, they were something in between, proof that belief can make monsters holy. The Templars became legends: warriors, bankers, pilgrims, spies. They built a network stretching from England to Jerusalem, their coffers heavy with gold, their secrets deeper than cathedrals. Kings borrowed money from them. Popes blessed them. And for a while, it seemed the knights had conquered not just kingdoms, but heaven itself. But power has a way of turning its sword inward. By the 14th century, the Crusades had burned out. Jerusalem was lost, the Holy Land gone, and the once glorious knightly orders found themselves adrift, wealthy, armed, and no longer useful. And kings do not tolerate power they cannot control. So one dawn in 1307, the bells of Paris rang out, and the Templars were betrayed. By royal decree, every knight of the temple was arrested, chained, tortured. Their leader, Jacques de Molay, was burned alive. The flames that devoured him lit the death of an era. His final words, "God knows who is wrong and who has sinned," were whispered into the smoke like a curse. The knight, who had once stood between heaven and earth, now knelt in the mud of politics. Faith had made him powerful. Greed made him obsolete. And yet, the idea refused to die. Because even as Europe turned on its crusaders, it could not let go of the myth. The stories grew bigger, brighter, cleaner. Minstrels sang of Sir Lancelot, of Arthur's Round Table, of knights who fought for love instead of loot. Poets replaced the blood with roses, the screams with songs. The filth of the battlefield became the fragrance of chivalry. In the imagination of Europe, the knight was reborn not as he was, but as he was needed to be. Meanwhile, the real knights kept fighting not for heaven, but for home. They rode in endless feuds between rival lords, sieged castles, burned villages. Their armor grew heavier, their world smaller. Gunpowder whispered on the wind a sound that would soon erase them. For centuries, they had ruled the battlefield. But now, a peasant with a musket could kill a knight from 50 yards away. And no amount of courage could stop Lead. The age of gods in armor was dying. But the dream, the lie of the knight? That was just beginning. The chivalric illusion, when honor became a mask. By the time the last crusader banner fell to dust, the knight was no longer a holy warrior. He was something stranger, an actor in armor, trapped in a role the world refused to end. The battlefield had changed, but the legend refused to die. Steel had met its match in fire and lead, yet people still wanted their heroes to shine. So they began polishing the lie. It started in courts, in the candlelight of castles where blood was a distant rumor. There, nobles who had never lifted a sword began speaking of honor. They wrote codes, composed songs, held tournaments not for war, but for spectacle. What once was slaughter became sport. The lance shattered not against bone, but against pride. Knighthood turned inward from conquest to performance. A man could prove his virtue not by killing, but by pretending to. The code of chivalry was born, a list of virtues no one could truly live up to, but everyone pretended to. Honor, loyalty, mercy, humility, words carved into stone but ignored on the field. It was a costume sewn from ideals, meant to hide the rust beneath the armor. But here's the irony, that lie worked. For a world drowning in violence, the idea of chivalry was a kind of mercy. It gave people something to believe in, that behind all the blood and fire, there might still be goodness. Even if it was a dream, it was a dream worth having. And so, poets and priests and painters all joined in the illusion. The knight became a symbol of what man could be, not what he was. From Geoffrey Chaucer to Chrétien de Troyes, from Arthur's Camelot to Roland's Horn, the stories glowed brighter than the truth ever could. But on the real battlefields of Europe, there was no poetry. There was mud, and fear, and the sound of bones breaking. The 100 Years' War tore France and England apart, and the knight, that shining figure of old, became both hero and relic. At Crécy, Poitiers, and Agincourt, the flower of French chivalry charged into a storm of English arrows and never came out. Thousands of noblemen, heirs of centuries of feudal pride, fell like wheat before a scythe. Their armor, once invincible, became their tombs. And on those fields, the myth began to crumble. The world was changing faster than the knight could draw his sword. Gunpowder thundered across Europe. Cannons turned castles into rubble. A single cannonball could erase what generations had built. But the knight still clung to his creed, still called it honor. He believed he was different, that bravery could outlast bullets, that valor could outshine fire. And in that stubbornness, there was something heartbreakingly human. Even as his world died, the knight refused to stop believing in it. It was during this slow death that Joan of Arc appeared, a peasant girl who claimed to hear the voice of God. She wore armor like a knight, led men like a king, and burned like a saint. She was everything knighthood was supposed to be: pure, fearless, chosen. But she had no noble blood, no title, no crest. And that terrified the men of her age. When the fire took her, the old order watched in silence. Because in her, they saw the truth: you didn't need a title to be brave. You didn't need armor to be divine. The knight's monopoly on virtue was over. By the 15th century, the sword gave way to the pike, and the pike gave way to the gun. Armies became professional. War became science. And the knight, the once mighty horseman of God, became a parade ornament, a relic of nostalgia. They lingered in ceremonies and pageants, wearing armor that glittered but never fought. Kings dressed them in gold, gave them orders and titles, but no battles. They became symbols, not soldiers. It was over. But history, ever the magician, had one last trick to play. As real knights faded, fictional knights took their place. Their ghosts rode through ink and imagination. Arthur and Lancelot, Galahad, and Gawain, all the men who never lived, yet lived forever. Writers built them out of hope, shaped them into perfect men, gave them virtues the real world could not produce. And those stories crossed oceans and centuries. By the time America was born, the word knight no longer meant blood or war. It meant honor. It meant doing right when it's hard. It meant standing for something, even when the world mocked you for it. And that more than any sword or armor is why the knight still haunts us. Because every age rediscovers its own kind of knight. The cowboy. The astronaut. The firefighter. The soldier. We dress them in new uniforms, give them new weapons, but the story stays the same, a lone figure who stands when others fall, who believes in something bigger than himself. The details change, the truth does not. We crave that story because we want to believe courage still matters. That chivalry, the dream, not the code, can still exist. That the world may be cruel, but someone, somewhere, still chooses to be good. And maybe that's what the knights were all along, not saints, not monsters, but mirrors. They reflected the world that made them. And when that world looked into their steel, it saw both its violence and its virtue. That's the secret of the knight. That's what they never told you. They weren't just fighting dragons or heathens or enemies. They were fighting themselves, the endless war between who we are and who we wish we could be. Steel and shadow, the fall of the knight and the rise of the modern world. The clang of the sword faded before the roar of gunpowder. The age of knights, once unstoppable, was coming to an end, not in one battle, not with one declaration, but slowly, like iron rusting in the rain. By the late 15th century, Europe was changing faster than any knight could adapt. Cannons thundered through stone, hurling castles into dust. Pike formations cut down mounted warriors before they could charge. The battlefield no longer belonged to men on horseback, no matter how brave, no matter how well armored. Steel could no longer protect ambition. Chivalry could no longer sanctify slaughter. The medieval knight, the symbol of power, faith, and glory, became a relic. The world moved toward Renaissance light, a time of art, science, and reason. In cities like Florence and Venice, the clatter of workshops and the hum of trade replaced the cries of battlefields. Armies became professional. Soldiers were no longer lords' pets or feudal obligations, they were disciplined, trained, and paid. The knight could not compete with armies of musket-wielding infantry. His relevance faded like a sunset swallowed by dawn. Yet, the knight refused to vanish quietly. In tournaments, he displayed his dying art, tilting at lances, showing skill in ways that were ceremonial rather than practical. In literature, he lived forever: Arthur, Lancelot, Galahad, all perfect and immortal. And in the imagination of the people, he remained eternal, a symbol of honor and courage that history itself had tried to extinguish. The real knights, meanwhile, faced a choice: adapt or disappear. Some joined royal armies, trading titles for wages. Some became guards, mercenaries, or advisors. Some clung to ancestral lands, fighting petty wars that mattered to no one outside their walls. And many simply faded into obscurity, their swords turned to plows, their armor stacked in attics, rusting quietly. But the idea of the knight, the dream, did not fade. It transformed. The knight became the ideal, not a reality. Stories painted him flawless. Songs and paintings made him noble, fearless, and gallant. And every age, every generation, borrowed a piece of that ideal for themselves. America, centuries later, would inherit that dream. Cowboys, lawmen, firefighters, astronauts, we gave them crests and banners of our own. The knight in steel became the knight in spirit. Not flesh and blood, but aspiration. Even as technology advanced, the echo of the knight haunted human imagination. Every hero we admire carries a piece of him: courage under impossible odds, loyalty beyond reason, honor when the world does not reward it. We tell our children of knights, not because they lived perfectly, but because they remind us of what we hope to be. And yet, the truth remains buried beneath the legend: knights were human. Brave, cruel, ambitious, fearful, idealistic, bloodied. They were born of mud and sweat, ruled by hunger and fear, yet reaching for light they often could not touch. The lesson of the knight is not in his victories, nor in his battles, nor even in the chivalric codes that masked his sins. It is in his contradiction: a man who could destroy worlds, yet dream of honor, who could kill, yet aspire to virtue, who could fall, yet rise again in legend. And that is why the story never ends. The knight may vanish from the battlefield, but he survives in our stories, our ideals, and our hearts. Every generation rediscovers him, reshapes him, and claims him. He is the shadow behind our heroes, the steel beneath our dreams. History tried to bury him. Society tried to replace him. Time tried to rust him. But the knight rides on. The modern legacy: how knights shape our heroes today. The swords have gone. The castles crumble. The fields that once ran red with blood are quiet, green, and calm. And yet, the knight rides on. Not on horseback, not in steel, but in spirit. In every story we tell, in every hero we admire, in every act of courage that makes the impossible seem possible, there he is. Think of the soldier charging into battle, risking everything for brothers and strangers alike. Think of the firefighter entering a burning building, the astronaut venturing into the void, the activist standing alone against injustice. All carry the echo of that first medieval knight, men who stared death in the face and kept moving forward, believing in something greater than themselves. Hollywood discovered him centuries later. The knight became larger than life. Films and novels, comics, and video games all carried his myth into living rooms and imaginations. Lancelot and Arthur, Aragorn and Boromir, Jaime and Brienne, every age finds its knight in someone else. The truth of mud, sweat, and blood is gone. What remains is the idea: courage, honor, loyalty, and sacrifice, distilled into stories that inspire millions. Even in real life, nations borrowed his image. Military traditions still honor the knight's discipline and valor. Awards and medals are presented with ceremonies, insignia, and oaths, echoes of feudal rituals meant to shape men into instruments of service and courage. Schools teach knightly ideals under different names: integrity, perseverance, leadership. We codify them, institutionalize them, yet the root remains the same: the dream of something larger than oneself. But the modern knight is also a reminder of caution. The original knights were human, flawed, violent, ambitious. Their legend is seductive, but it can be dangerous if we forget the truth behind the myth. Blind loyalty, hubris, and misused power can destroy kingdoms or lives. So when we invoke the knight, we must remember the man behind the armor. Every superhero movie, every epic novel, every soldier who sacrifices, there is a shadow of the medieval knight, a reminder that greatness requires struggle, that virtue is a choice, and that glory is never free. And so the story comes full circle. From the boy in mud and sweat who dreamed of glory, to the crusader marching under a blood-red cross, to the armored warrior charging through the mud of European battlefields, to the fading soldier in a ceremonial parade, the knight has always carried one truth: the heart of a hero is forged in fire, tested by fear, and remembered in story. We may never ride with them, fight beside them, or wear their armor, but we inherit their lesson. Courage is a choice. Honor is a struggle. And legacy is born not from perfection, but from striving. So when you hear a story of bravery, loyalty, or sacrifice, remember this: somewhere in the echoes, the medieval knight still rides. Through centuries, across continents, in legend, and in our dreams, he is there, a symbol, a mirror, a challenge to all who would dare to stand taller, ride further, and fight harder. The knight is gone. And yet, he is everywhere. Knights of the mind and heart, lessons for today. The armor is gone. The horses no longer thunder across battlefields. The swords have long since rusted into dust. And yet, the knight survives in thought, in spirit, in the very way we define heroism. Look closely, and you can see him everywhere. In boardrooms, where leaders weigh risk and reward. In classrooms, where teachers inspire courage in young minds. In hospitals, where doctors and nurses fight daily against an invisible enemy. Everywhere people act with courage, integrity, and selfless purpose, the knight rides still. The first lesson of the knight is discipline. Before glory, before legend, before banners and songs, the knight was a servant to training. Years of sweat, repetition, and sacrifice forged him. And the same is true today: no hero acts without preparation. Discipline is the forge where courage is tempered. A firefighter doesn't charge a burning building without years of practice. A soldier doesn't enter combat without training. A student doesn't master math without struggle. The knight teaches us that excellence is earned, not given. The second lesson is loyalty. The medieval knight swore allegiance to his lord, to his order, to a code. Even when obedience demanded personal sacrifice, even when the path was dangerous, he held to his vow. Modern life rarely calls for literal oaths on the battlefield, but loyalty remains vital, to family, to community, to ideals. The people who inspire us most are those who stand firm when the world would sway them, who honor commitments even when it costs them dearly. In that, the knight lives on. The third lesson is courage under uncertainty. Knights faced chaos, disease, starvation, betrayal, and certain death. They rode into the unknown with only faith in their skill and belief. Today, courage is quieter but no less heroic: the activist who speaks truth to power, the doctor confronting a deadly pandemic, the innovator risking everything for an idea. The medieval knight reminds us, fear is inevitable. Action in spite of fear is what defines greatness. But perhaps the most profound lesson is the importance of imagination and ideals. Knights were flawed men, often cruel, sometimes corrupt. Yet the stories of Lancelot and Galahad, Roland and Arthur, elevated them beyond their faults. The myth carried an ideal, a vision of what humanity could strive to become. And the human heart still needs ideals. Without them, courage falters, morality weakens, and society loses its compass. The knight teaches us that myths, even imperfect, are tools for shaping virtue. We still invoke the knight in our rituals. Medals of honor, public awards, ceremonies, all are echoes of knighthood. Even the language we use, valiant, gallant, steadfast, comes from knights. We dress heroes in armor again, symbolically, in words, deeds, and dreams. The story of the medieval knight is not merely history, it is a blueprint for human aspiration. And here is the paradox that has always made knights fascinating. Their humanity was imperfect, but their symbolism was eternal. They bled, they lied, they feared, they killed, but in striving for courage, loyalty, and honor, they gave the world something priceless, the map for heroism. In every generation, we rewrite the knight. We see ourselves in him, aspire to match him, fail as he did, and yet keep trying. That is why the knight never truly dies. So when you read stories of bravery, when you see acts of selflessness, when you honor those who fight for justice or protect the vulnerable, remember, the medieval knight is riding beside them. Not on horseback, not in armor, not with a sword in hand, but in heart, in mind, in the echo of ideals that never fade. The lesson is clear: greatness is forged, courage is chosen, loyalty is tested, and honor is defined not by perfection, but by the struggle to uphold it. Legends and shadows, why medieval knights still captivate us. The knight rides on, not in flesh, not in steel, but in imagination. Centuries have passed since the clang of swords and the thunder of hooves, yet the world has never let go of his image. Why? Because knights are mirrors reflecting not just who we were, but who we hope to be. They embody courage in the face of terror, loyalty in the storm of betrayal, honor in the chaos of humanity. And humans, no matter the era, crave stories that mirror that struggle. Look at the pages of history books, the frames of films, the levels of video games, knights dominate them. From Tolkien's Aragorn, riding through shadows to reclaim a kingdom, to the cyber knights of modern fantasy, every story borrows from the medieval myth. Why? Because the knight represents struggle made beautiful. Every armor-clad warrior, every code of honor, every lance raised to defend the weak, is a distillation of human longing, a longing to believe that valor exists beyond selfishness. The knight's enduring appeal is also paradoxical. He was human, fallible, violent, ambitious, yet idealized into something heroic. We are drawn to him because he is both real and impossible, a contradiction that resonates with our own lives. We aspire to courage, but we fear failure. We seek honor, but we stumble in our choices. The knight gives us permission to fail yet to strive. His myth is a template for our imperfections, showing that even flawed humans can reach greatness. Pop culture has amplified the legend. Hollywood turned knights into symbols of epic heroism. Comics, games, and novels recast them in fantasy worlds, with dragons, magic, and immortal quests. And yet, beneath every explosion and every battle scene, the core remains the same: a man facing impossible odds, guided by courage, loyalty, and ideal. This is why we connect with knights more than any historical figure. Because they are our first superheroes. They carry swords instead of capes, shields instead of gadgets, and yet their moral struggle is timeless. Every generation rediscovers them, reshapes them, and makes them its own. Even education and civic life borrow from the knight. Honor codes, civic duty, moral lessons all echo the ideals of knighthood. We celebrate teachers, soldiers, public servants, athletes, and leaders who emulate these values. Every time we tell a child, stand tall, do the right thing, protect the weak, we are invoking the knight. He is alive in principle, if not in armor. And there is another reason the knight fascinates us: he reminds us of mortality and immortality simultaneously. The real knights were human, they bled, they died, they failed. But their ideals, their legends, their stories, live on, untouched by time. We are reminded that while flesh is fragile, spirit can endure. that while life is temporary, heroism, courage, and striving for virtue are eternal. Knights also captivate us because they carry contradiction beautifully. They were warriors and poets, killers and saints, ambitious and devoted. They thrived in violence yet pursued ideals of honor. We see ourselves in that struggle, the tension between desire and duty, between fear and action, between mortality and legacy. And the stories keep us enthralled because they are mirrors of our own lives, magnified, dressed in armor, and set against epic backdrops. This is why knights appear everywhere, from epic sagas to fantasy worlds, from medieval reenactments to science fiction universes. Because no matter how modern our world becomes, we still crave courage that is pure, loyalty that is tested, honor that is chosen. Knights are the vessels for that longing. And as long as humanity dreams of being better than it is, the knight will ride. Blood and myth, the truth behind the legend. For all their shine and storybook glory, knights were human first, violent, ambitious, and often terrifyingly flawed. The myths we celebrate hide a darker truth. The real medieval knight lived in blood and mud, governed by fear and opportunity as much as honor and faith. They were warriors, yes, but also instruments of power. A knight could burn a village, pillage a town, or seize a castle and justify it with loyalty, oath, or divine mandate. Kings, lords, and even the church turned a blind eye when convenient, because knights were tools of control. They enforced taxes, defended territories, and crushed rivals, often caring little for morality. Violence was a daily reality. A knight trained to kill before he could write his own name. His hands were hardened by sword and shield, his arms conditioned for swinging lances with deadly precision. War was routine. Sieges lasted months, sometimes years. Disease spread through camps. Starvation stalked the land. Every battle was a crucible, every victory soaked in blood. Yet the songs tell us otherwise. They speak of noble deeds, gallantry, and courage. They obscure the screaming, the fire, the terror endured by peasants, captives, and even fellow knights. History, as it is often told, favors the polished armor over the mud-streaked reality. Corruption was everywhere. Knights were loyal to their lords, not always to principles. Promises were broken. Alliances shifted with convenience. Honor could be bought or faked, and often was. The code of chivalry existed largely on paper. In practice, knights hunted, looted, and killed with impunity, justified by titles, religion, or sheer force of lawlessness. The church played its part in the illusion. It sanctified violence when convenient crusades, holy wars, and feuds between Christian kingdoms. Knights were absolved if they fought under the cross. Yet in quiet moments, in villages far from cathedrals, those same knights terrorized the very people they were meant to protect. The contradiction was glaring. They were simultaneously protectors and predators. Even the romanticized rituals were designed to mask reality. Knighthood ceremonies were full of symbolism, oaths, blessings, sword-laying, but the truth was that the real test of knighthood was the ability to kill efficiently and survive. Men who failed often never returned home. Those who succeeded did not always return virtuous. Most returned with hardened hearts, haunted by the things they had done and seen. Yet, in that violence, paradoxically, ideals were born. Knights struggled with morality, not merely physical danger. Some sought justice, some defended the helpless, some pursued virtue with sincerity. The stories of Lancelot, Galahad, and Roland exist because some knights, however few, truly strive to be more than their weapons. And that struggle is timeless. It is why knights continue to fascinate us. Because in them, we see both the darkness and the aspiration of humanity. The clash between our basest impulses and our highest ideals, set on a battlefield, painted in steel. The truth is clear, the knight is neither saint nor monster, but both. Blood and myth are inseparable. The man in armor is flawed. The legend he inspires is eternal. And that, more than any tale of glory or victory, is the story they never told you. The knight is human, painfully, gloriously human, capable of both destruction and inspiration, cruelty and courage, failure and heroism. The eternal echo, why knights still matter. The castles are gone. The swords are rusted. The banners that once shook in the wind have long since rotted away. And yet, the knight rides on. Not in body, but in spirit. Not in armor, but in the ideals he forged through centuries of struggle, blood, and myth. Courage, loyalty, honor, these are the echoes that remain, vibrating through time, shaping the world long after the last battle was fought. Why do we still revere knights? Because they embody a universal truth: heroism is a choice, not a guarantee. The knight stood in the face of fear, uncertainty, and death. He acted when others fled, protected when others abandoned, and endured when others broke. That struggle, imperfect, human, yet striving, is timeless. We see it in soldiers who run into gunfire to save lives. We see it in doctors who face deadly diseases, parents who sacrifice for their children, and activists who risk everything to defend the vulnerable. Knights, though distant in time, are our archetype of courage and service. Even in popular culture, the knight is omnipresent. Movies, books, and video games paint him as hero, protector, warrior, or champion, sometimes flawed, sometimes flawless, but always striving. We are drawn to him because he reflects a part of ourselves we hope to awaken, the part that fights for justice, stands for honor, and dares to face impossible odds. The knight also teaches us the power of myth. The historical reality was brutal, imperfect, and often horrifying. But the stories polished, romanticized, legendary survive because humans need heroes, ideals, and inspiration. Legends endure not because they are true, but because they show us what we might aspire to be, even if we fall short. And yet, the lessons are practical as well. Discipline, loyalty, courage under pressure, and striving for integrity are as relevant today as they were in the Middle Ages. Corporations, armies, schools, and communities all function on principles that mirror those of the knightly orders: responsibility, service, and ethical conduct. In a way, every modern system of leadership owes a debt to the medieval knight, not the man himself, but the enduring idea. Perhaps the most profound lesson is this: humanity is a battlefield. We face challenges, conflicts, and fears every day, even without swords or shields. And the knight's struggle against chaos, greed, fear, and temptation is a mirror of our own. He reminds us that the path to honor is rarely easy, that heroism is never guaranteed, and that our choices define our legacy. So when we tell stories of knights, whether on the page, on the screen, or in memory, we are doing more than remembering history. We are reminding ourselves that greatness is forged, courage is chosen, and honor is a constant struggle. We inherit their lessons, their myths, and their contradictions. And in doing so, we keep riding with them across centuries, across continents, across the vast landscapes of imagination. The knight is gone, and yet he never truly disappears. He is in every act of bravery. He is in every story of loyalty. He is in every heart that chooses honor over ease. The medieval knight may have walked away from the battlefield, but his echo remains eternal. And as long as humans dream, aspire, and struggle, the knight will continue to ride. Beyond armor, the knight in today's ethics and leadership. The battlefield has changed, but the lessons of the knight endure. Steel and horses may be gone, but the principles remain: courage, loyalty, integrity, and the constant pursuit of honor. In every boardroom, classroom, courtroom, and battlefield of the modern era, echoes of the medieval knight resonate. Leadership today is not defined by power alone, but by service and responsibility. A leader, like a knight, must face risks, make difficult decisions, and act not just for personal gain, but for the welfare of others. Courage is the first test. The knight faced death on the battlefield. The modern leader faces uncertainty, opposition, and moral dilemmas. Every decision carries consequence. Every action reflects character. Choosing the hard right over the easy wrong, that is courage. And just as the knight trained tirelessly with sword and lance, we must train our minds, hone our judgment, and cultivate resilience. Loyalty is the second pillar. Knights were bound by oaths to lords, to orders, and to codes of conduct. Today, loyalty is subtler, but no less critical: loyalty to principles, to teams, to communities, to truth. The modern knight does not blindly obey, he aligns actions with values. He protects, supports, and uplifts those who rely on him, even when recognition is absent and rewards are uncertain. Integrity is the third mark of the knight. The medieval ideal demanded truth, fairness, and honor, often unattainable in practice, yet aspirational. Modern ethics mirrors this struggle. Leaders, professionals, and citizens alike confront choices where shortcuts may tempt them, where deception could bring advantage. The knight teaches that the measure of a person is their adherence to principle, even when easy compromise is possible. And finally, there is the pursuit of legacy. Knights fought not just for immediate victories but for lasting honor. They knew that actions echo beyond life. Modern individuals, though rarely wielding swords, carry the same truth: what we do matters beyond the moment. Every decision, every act of courage or kindness, every sacrifice contributes to a story that will outlive us. The lessons of knighthood extend beyond leadership. They inform personal development, moral philosophy, and even cultural identity. Stories of knights inspire us to hold ourselves to higher standards, to pursue excellence, and to act with both humility and resolve. They remind us that heroism is not inherent, it is chosen. It is forged in the trials of everyday life as surely as it was forged on medieval battlefields. And perhaps the most enduring lesson of all: humanity is complex, and striving matters more than perfection. The knights were flawed, violent, ambitious, and human. Yet in striving to uphold ideals, however imperfectly, they created a narrative that transcends centuries. We too are human, we too are imperfect, and yet our choices shape the world. In boardrooms, courts, schools, and communities, the modern knight rides quietly, invisibly, yet profoundly. He embodies discipline, courage, loyalty, and vision. He reminds us that leadership is service, that strength is tempered with wisdom, and that the greatest battles are often fought not with swords, but with ethics, conviction, and perseverance. The medieval knight's armor may have been left behind, but the principles of knighthood remain our inheritance. We wear them now in metaphorical form, in actions, decisions, and ideals. They are timeless, and they are universal. The knight survives, beyond battlefield and page, in the choices we make, the courage we summon, and the honor we uphold. And as long as humanity aspires, the knight will ride with us, silently, eternally, reminding us of the best we can be. The psychological legacy: why we crave knights and heroic ideals. Humans are drawn to stories. We always have been, and we always will be. We crave heroes because we see ourselves in them, and we see what we hope we could become. The medieval knight is more than history, he is a psychological archetype. He represents courage, loyalty, honor, and sacrifice, the highest aspirations of the human mind. Even knowing the truth, the blood, the cruelty, the flawed humanity behind the armor, we are captivated. Why? Because knights reflect the tension at the core of our psyche, the struggle between instinct and ideal. Every generation projects its hopes onto knights. For medieval peasants, knights were protectors, a living promise of safety and order. For nobles, they were instruments of power and prestige. For us, they are mirrors of aspiration, the idea that we can rise above fear, cruelty, and self-interest to act bravely, wisely, and honorably. Psychologists call this the need for symbolic heroes. Humans require models, figures who embody values we admire, who challenge us to grow, and whose stories help us process morality. The knight fulfills this need. Even flawed, he serves as a template for bravery, loyalty, and ethical struggle. We internalize these ideals, imagining ourselves in his boots, facing impossible odds, and choosing virtue over ease. The myth of the knight also satisfies our desire for narrative structure. Life is messy, chaotic, unpredictable. Knights fight clearly defined battles, good vs evil, honor vs corruption, courage vs fear. Their stories help us make sense of our own lives, teaching us lessons in morality, resilience, and personal responsibility. Even in fantasy and fiction, these themes resonate because they echo fundamental truths about the human condition. Knights also endure because they embody aspirational struggle. They fail. They fight. They rise. They are not perfect, but they strive. And in their striving, they reflect a profound truth: heroism is not an innate trait, it is a process, a choice, a commitment to action in the face of adversity. That lesson is timeless, and it is universal. From movies to literature, video games to comics, we continue to reimagine the knight. Each retelling is a psychological echo, a projection of our collective ideals. Aragorn, Jon Snow, Wonder Woman, Geralt of Rivia, they are knights in metaphor, standing in for the virtues we long to embody. Through them, we explore morality, courage, and identity, practicing heroism vicariously before applying it in our own lives. Even leadership and ethics draw on knightly ideals. Corporate leaders, community organizers, and educators all borrow principles first embodied in the medieval knight: discipline, loyalty, courage, and vision. We admire those who can lead without corruption, inspire without tyranny, and protect without self-interest. That admiration is deeply psychological, rooted in the stories of men in armor who once risked everything to do the same. Ultimately, the knight's legacy is psychological and moral. He reminds us that humans are capable of greatness, but only when guided by courage, integrity, and loyalty. He challenges us to act, to strive, to choose honor over convenience. And he endures in our imagination because we need him, because we crave evidence that heroism is possible, even in an imperfect world. The medieval knight is gone. The castles have crumbled. The swords have rusted. But the mind remembers. The heart aspires. And the story continues. Knights and the American Imagination: How Medieval Ideals Shaped a New World. Across the Atlantic, a new world was taking shape, untamed, vast, and full of possibility. Colonists, pioneers, and revolutionaries arrived on foreign shores with little more than determination, conviction, and the faint echo of ideals passed down through centuries. And they brought with them the myth of the knight, not in armor, not on horseback, but in imagination and aspiration. Knights were more than medieval warriors, they were symbols of courage, loyalty, and honor, qualities the settlers desperately needed. Crossing the ocean, facing unknown lands, surviving harsh winters, and contending with both human and natural threats, they found in the knight an archetype for endurance and moral fortitude. Stories of chivalry, valor, and sacrifice became guiding lights, even as reality demanded practicality, grit, and relentless resolve. The Revolutionary War, in particular, revealed the knightly spirit reborn. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and countless unnamed soldiers embodied ideals that were once etched in medieval codes. Discipline in the ranks, loyalty to a cause greater than self, courage under unimaginable danger, these were the principles of knighthood translated into a new world. And just as knights had fought for honor, so too did Americans fight for liberty, justice, and independence. The American imagination continued to embrace knights through literature, folklore, and popular culture. Frontier heroes, lawmen, and explorers were knights in metaphor, defending communities, upholding law, and facing danger without hesitation. The cowboy was a knight without armor, the firefighter a knight without a lance, and the soldier a knight without a castle. All reflected the medieval ideal in form suited to the challenges of a modern, evolving world. Even the architecture of American civic life carries echoes of knighthood. Institutions of law, civic duty, and moral codes reflect the values knights once aspired to: justice, service, integrity, and protection of the vulnerable. Schools teach ethics and honor codes, communities celebrate bravery and sacrifice, nations honor their defenders. Knighthood persists, not as steel and banners, but as principles embedded in society itself. Popular culture reinforced this influence. 19th century novels, dime store adventures, and epic histories glorified knights, feeding the imagination of young Americans. Movies, television, and video games would later continue the trend. Medieval knights became timeless icons of morality, courage, and leadership. We crave heroes who act with integrity under pressure, who fight for justice, who sacrifice for the greater good, because the knight in spirit never left the American consciousness. And yet, the myth was adaptable. In a world without castles and lances, the knight became a symbol, a template for behavior rather than a literal profession. Ethical choices replaced battlefield choices. Civic duty replaced feudal obligation. The aspiration to courage and honor persisted, even when the medium had changed. Today, we still celebrate knightly ideals. Military service, law enforcement, public service, and even sports echo the principles that knights once embodied. In every act of selflessness, in every courageous choice, the echo of the medieval knight resonates. And in literature, film, and games, he continues to inspire millions, teaching that virtue, bravery, and loyalty are not relics of history, but timeless guides for the human heart. The medieval knight, in essence, became eternal, not as a man in armor, but as an idea. He shaped culture, morality, and imagination across continents, centuries, and generations. In the American story, he rides still, silent but powerful, reminding us that courage is chosen, honor is earned, and heroism endures beyond the battlefield. Knights in modern culture, from film to fantasy worlds. The medieval knight, long gone from battlefields and courts, lives vividly in our imagination. Steel and horses may have vanished, but cinema, literature, games, and art have ensured that he rides eternal. He has become more than a historical figure, he is a cultural archetype, a symbol of virtue, courage, and struggle against adversity. Hollywood discovered him first. From early silent films to epic blockbusters, knights became icons of cinematic storytelling. Arthurian legends were retold with grandeur and spectacle, lances, swords, shining armor, and dramatic duels, all amplified by music, camera angles, and the thrill of the battlefield. Audiences were captivated because knights embody timeless moral drama: courage versus fear, loyalty versus betrayal, honor versus corruption. They are the ultimate narrative lens for exploring human struggle. Fantasy literature amplified the myth. From Tolkien's Middle-earth to modern high fantasy, knights, sometimes literal, sometimes metaphorical, stand as heroes, defenders, and moral compasses. They fight dragons, dark lords, and impossible odds. Yet at their core, these stories remain faithful to the medieval ideal. Knights test the limits of courage, demonstrate loyalty, and pursue virtue despite personal cost. Video games brought the knight into the interactive age. Gamers experience the struggle firsthand, raising swords, making moral choices, protecting the weak, and facing overwhelming danger. The knight's narrative became participatory, immersive, and deeply personal. Players feel the tension of moral choice, the thrill of battle, and the satisfaction of embodying an ideal. This is the modern extension of what knights always represented: aspiration made tangible, struggle made heroic, virtue made interactive. Even outside of entertainment, knights influence art and culture. Statues, paintings, and illustrations celebrate their courage and moral ideals. Cosplay and medieval reenactments allow people to inhabit the knight, even temporarily, giving form to centuries-old dreams. From comic books to fantasy novels, the knight's armor, crests, and sword are instantly recognizable symbols of virtue, courage, and honor. The fascination with knights also reflects something deeper: the human need for morality and heroism in story form. Life is rarely a clear battle between good and evil, yet knights provide clarity. Their stories offer structure, hope, and guidance, showing us that even imperfect humans can rise to extraordinary acts. Even flawed, even human, they provide an aspirational mirror we cannot resist. This cultural immortality of knights reveals a paradox. While the real medieval knight was often violent, corrupt, and imperfect, the idea of the knight is timeless and universal. We separate the man from the myth, keeping the ideals, discarding the brutality, and reshaping him to fit the moral imagination of each era. Knights in modern culture teach us more than history. They teach us values, courage, and narrative. They inspire action, fuel imagination, and provide moral frameworks. We see ourselves in them, aspire to their ideals, and in doing so, confront our own courage, loyalty, and honor. In a sense, the knight is eternal not because he wielded a sword, but because humanity continually projects its highest aspirations onto him. Every epic story, heroic tale, and moral challenge echoes the same struggle: to act bravely, to choose honor, and to strive for virtue even in the face of overwhelming odds. The medieval knight has left the battlefield, yet he dominates culture. He rides not in reality, but in imagination, memory, and the human heart. And as long as we tell stories, movies, books, games, or art, the knight will continue to captivate, challenge, and inspire. The lessons of knighthood: courage, honor, and legacy in everyday life. The medieval knight may no longer ride across muddy fields or storm stone castles, but his lessons echo louder than ever. Steel has rusted, armor has decayed, and the battle cries have faded into history, yet the principles remain timeless, universal, and urgently relevant. Courage is the first lesson. Knights faced dangers that would make ordinary hearts quail: sieges, duels, raids, and death itself. Their courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite fear. In today's world, courage is quieter but no less essential. It is the willingness to speak truth, to stand up for what is right, to confront injustice, to make difficult decisions, and to risk failure for the sake of integrity. In the boardroom, the classroom, the community, or the home, courage manifests in countless ways, all inspired by the same principle knights lived and died by. Honor is the second enduring lesson. Knights were bound by codes sometimes broken, sometimes aspirational, that defined what it meant to live virtuously. Honor is not convenience, it is consistency, integrity, and loyalty to values beyond oneself. In modern life, honor might be keeping a promise, protecting the vulnerable, or maintaining honesty when deceit seems easier. Every act of ethical choice echoes the knightly ideal, that our character is measured not by words, but by action. Loyalty remains as vital as ever. A knight's oath bound him to his lord, his comrades, and his ideals. Today, loyalty translates into relationships, communities, and principles. It is the commitment to stand by those who depend on us, the courage to defend the weak, and the perseverance to uphold ethical values even when tested. Without loyalty, courage becomes reckless, and honor becomes hollow. Knights remind us that loyalty is the framework on which all virtue is built. The legacy of knighthood is also instructive. Knights fought not for fleeting recognition, but for enduring honor. They understood that the consequences of their actions would echo beyond their lifetimes. In the modern world, we inherit the same responsibility, to act in ways that leave a positive impact, to contribute to society, and to inspire others by our choices. Legacy is not fame or wealth, it is the moral and practical mark we leave on the world. Knighthood also teaches resilience and discipline. A knight's training was grueling, not only to survive, but to excel in skill, judgment, and ethical conduct. Modern life demands the same commitment: intellectual discipline, emotional resilience, and consistent effort towards self-improvement. Courage without preparation is reckless, honor without discipline is fragile, loyalty without resilience is fleeting. Even in the small moments of daily life, the knight's lessons apply. Facing conflict without retaliation, acting ethically under pressure, supporting someone in need, persevering through personal hardship, these are the modern arenas of knighthood. Every choice, no matter how mundane, carries the potential to embody the same principles that knights once lived and occasionally failed in life and death struggles. Perhaps the most profound lesson of all is this: knighthood is aspirational, not perfect. The knights themselves were flawed, often violent, sometimes cruel. Yet the ideals they inspired, courage, honor, loyalty, perseverance, continue to guide humanity centuries later. Their mistakes remind us that striving matters more than perfection, that intention and effort define character, and that heroic potential exists in all of us. In every act of bravery, in every ethical choice, in every effort to leave the world better than we found it, the medieval knight rides with us. He teaches us that heroism is cultivated, not inherited, that honor is chosen, not guaranteed, and that legacy is created, not bestowed. Even without armor, sword, or steed, the knight's principles illuminate our paths, guiding us through fear, moral uncertainty, and the daily battles that define life itself. The medieval knight is gone, yet alive in our hearts, minds, and actions. His lessons endure because humanity continues to need them: courage to act, honor to guide, loyalty to sustain, and the pursuit of a meaningful legacy. In a world full of chaos and uncertainty, the knight remains a beacon, a model, and an eternal echo of what is best in us. The knight's final lesson: why legends never truly die. Time has a way of erasing the flesh but never the idea. Castles crumble, swords rust, names fade from memory, but the story of the knight endures. Why? Because knights are not just men, they are symbols of human aspiration. They live in our imagination, in our culture, and in the choices we make every day. Legends survive because they speak to eternal truths. The knight embodies courage when faced with fear, loyalty when confronted with betrayal, and honor when tempted by convenience. These struggles are not confined to the Middle Ages. They exist in every era, every life, every heart that seeks to do better, to stand taller, and to act nobly. We continue to tell their stories because we see ourselves in them. Every act of bravery in real life, firefighters running into flames, soldiers risking their lives, ordinary people standing up for justice, echoes the medieval knight. Every story we consume, from epic novels to films to video games, reflects the knight's struggle, magnified and dramatized. We long for heroes because we long for evidence that virtue, courage, and honor are possible. Legends persist because they are adaptable. Knights were once men in armor, bound by feudal oaths. Now, they exist in metaphors, narratives, and symbols. We meet them in superheroes, in moral dilemmas, in leadership stories, in moments when courage is needed most. The details change, the battles shift, but the principles remain: struggle, strive, sacrifice, inspire. The knight teaches us that mortality does not limit influence. A life may end, but a story endures. A flawed man may fail, but an ideal can inspire generations. Every time we aspire to courage, act with integrity, or stand for something greater than ourselves, we honor the knight's legacy. Even the mistakes of knights are instructive. They were human, violent, ambitious, flawed. Yet in their striving, their ideals transcended imperfection. We learn that heroism does not require perfection, only the willingness to try, to strive, to act in alignment with our highest values. Legends never truly die because they resonate with the timeless human condition. Fear, ambition, moral conflict, the pursuit of excellence, these are constants of existence. Knights crystallized these struggles in a way that transcends time, geography, and culture. They are templates, mirrors, and guides for every generation. The final lesson of the knight is simple yet profound: our choices define our legacy. Courage chosen, loyalty upheld, honor pursued, these create echoes that outlive us. Legends endure because people need them, because they inspire, guide, and challenge. And as long as humanity dreams, as long as we aspire, the knight rides. So listen carefully, the knight is not gone. He rides silently beside every person who dares to act bravely, live ethically, and leave the world better than they found it. He exists in imagination, in culture, and in the human heart. He reminds us that courage is chosen, honor is earned, and legacy is built not from perfection, but from striving. The knight has walked off the battlefield, but his story is eternal. And in that story, we find not only history, but guidance, inspiration, and the promise that legends never truly die. The universal knight, how his influence crosses cultures and centuries. The knight is not confined to Europe, nor to medieval history. His spirit, ideals, and struggles echo across continents, languages, and centuries. Though armor and lances were European, the archetype, the warrior of courage, honor, and loyalty, exists everywhere humanity dreams of heroism. In Asia, samurai carried codes strikingly similar to knighthood. Bushido, the way of the warrior, emphasized loyalty, honor, discipline, and self-sacrifice. The parallels are striking. Both knights and samurai trained relentlessly, faced death willingly, and adhered to strict codes, seeking moral excellence alongside martial skill. Though worlds apart geographically, these warriors share a universal lesson: heroism is forged, not inherited; courage is chosen, not given. In Africa, warrior societies revered leaders who embodied bravery, integrity, and service to the community. Legends of Maasai warriors, Zulu regiments, and other traditions echo knightly ideals. The principles were adapted to different social and environmental contexts, yet the core remained: defend your people, act with honor, and sacrifice for a greater good. In the Americas, indigenous traditions celebrated warriors, protectors, and leaders who embodied moral strength and physical courage. From the Aztec jaguar warriors to Native American protectors, societies created narratives and rituals celebrating those who embodied courage, loyalty, and service, the very traits knights represented. Even in modern American culture, these archetypes merged with European knightly ideals, shaping literature, film, and moral imagination. The knight as an archetype also appears in mythology worldwide. Greek heroes like Achilles and Perseus, Norse gods like Sigurd, and legendary Chinese generals like Guan Yu share knightly qualities: fearless in battle, loyal to their cause, morally complex, striving for honor and greatness. Across cultures, humans have always projected the same fascination: the tension between mortality, moral choice, and heroic action. This universality explains why knights captivate the modern imagination. The appeal is not merely historical, it is psychological and cultural. Every culture resonates with the idea of the warrior who strives for virtue, acts courageously, and inspires others through example. We are drawn to the archetype because it is fundamental to our understanding of heroism and morality. Even global media borrows from knightly archetypes. Hollywood films, Japanese anime, fantasy novels, and video games often feature warriors, champions, and heroes whose struggles mirror those of medieval knights. The setting may change: castles to space stations, swords to energy blades, but the core principles remain: courage, loyalty, honor, and sacrifice. Knighthood has become universal language, understood across borders and generations. The global resonance of knights also teaches a deeper lesson: heroism is not tied to a time, place, or culture. It exists wherever humans aspire to something greater than themselves, wherever we face fear, injustice, or moral dilemmas. Knights, samurai, warriors, and protectors are all reflections of the same fundamental truth: humanity seeks to act nobly even when circumstances are harsh and outcomes uncertain. This universality ensures the knight's story will never fade. He adapts, transcends, and survives, appearing wherever people need examples of courage, loyalty, and honor. He reminds us that heroism is both personal and universal, bound by values that surpass borders, eras, and cultures. In every culture, every century, and every generation, the knight rides not in steel and blood, but in spirit, imagination, and moral aspiration. He teaches that greatness is forged through struggle, that courage is chosen, and that legacy is defined by action and principle. The knight is universal because these truths are universal. And as long as humanity dreams, fights, and strives, the knight will remain eternal. Knights of the mind, philosophy, ethics, and the modern moral compass. Knights did not fight only with swords, they battled with conscience. Their greatest challenges were moral, their most enduring victories won in thought and intention. Courage and honor were meaningless without judgment, loyalty was hollow without discernment. Knighthood was a philosophy as much as a practice, a mental armor forged in ethics and contemplation. The medieval knight's mind was disciplined, trained to act with deliberation under chaos. Every decision carried moral weight: whom to defend, when to strike, How to reconcile loyalty with justice. Even failure was instructive. Knights learned that choices define character far more than victory alone. This is why knights continue to inform our understanding of ethics today. They embody the eternal struggle between what is easy and what is right. Modern philosophy echoes these lessons. Ethical frameworks, utilitarianism, deontology, virtue ethics all confront the tension knights live daily. Do we act for the greater good, even at personal cost? Do we follow rules, even when consequences seem unjust? Do we cultivate virtues, even when society values expedience? Knights provide a narrative lens through which these abstract dilemmas become tangible, visceral, and relatable. Leadership today is infused with knightly ethics. Corporate boards, civic organizations, and governments rely not just on skill, but on judgment and integrity. A knightly approach demands foresight, fairness, courage, and empathy, the ability to weigh complex situations, make moral choices, and act decisively in alignment with core principles. Modern leaders, knowingly or not, inherit this legacy, the mind of the knight as guide to right action. Even personal development mirrors this philosophical knighthood. Self-discipline, resilience, ethical consistency, and striving for excellence are all echoes of the knightly ideal. Every challenge, temptation, or moral quandary is a battlefield. Every decision to act with courage or integrity is a triumph, however small, reflecting centuries of wisdom encoded in the archetype of the knight. Knights also teach the value of reflection. Training was not merely physical. Meditation, prayer, and counsel sharpened judgment. The mind and spirit were as vital as the sword. Today, mindfulness, critical thinking, and ethical reasoning are modern equivalence exercises in the same timeless craft of cultivating a strong, principled mind. The knight as philosopher reminds us that action without reflection is incomplete. Valor without ethics becomes violence. Loyalty without discernment becomes tyranny. Honor without introspection becomes arrogance. The medieval knight's struggles illustrate the delicate balance required to live wisely, ethically, and courageously. In literature and modern storytelling, this inner battle persists. Heroes are no longer simply physically brave, they must navigate moral complexity, confront personal flaws, and make choices that define them. From epic novels to movies, video games to real-world decisions, we celebrate characters who think like knights, balancing ethics, courage, and loyalty under pressure. Ultimately, the knight teaches that true heroism is mental as well as physical. The sword and armor are symbols, the mind is the battlefield that determines lasting legacy. We are all called to this arena, every day, in choices small and monumental. Act with courage. Choose honor. Uphold loyalty. Reflect on purpose. These are the principles that transcend centuries, shaping philosophy, ethics, and the modern moral compass. The knight of history, myth, and culture survives because he guides not just action, but thought. He reminds us that wisdom, ethics, and courage are inseparable. In a chaotic, complex world, his mind rides alongside ours, challenging us to act rightly, think clearly, and live with enduring principle. Knights in education and leadership, training a new generation. The knight's legacy is not only remembered, it is taught, cultivated, and passed on. From medieval squires learning sword and strategy to modern classrooms, mentorship programs, and leadership seminars, the principles of knighthood shape how we educate, guide, and inspire new generations. In schools, the echo of knighthood is everywhere. Honor codes, ethics lessons, and civic responsibility mirror the moral training of medieval knights. Students learn to navigate choices, face consequences, and act with integrity. Discipline, courage, and loyalty, virtues drilled into knights of old, are now instilled in young minds, preparing them to lead, serve, and contribute in a complex world. Mentorship programs act as modern-day knightly orders. Experienced leaders guide novices, passing down knowledge, wisdom, and ethical frameworks. Just as squires were trained in skill, strategy, and moral judgment, modern men's are trained in decision-making, resilience, and responsibility. The ideal remains unchanged: prepare the next generation to act courageously, ethically, and wisely. Leadership development borrows directly from the knightly model. Great leaders, whether in business, government, or community service, emulate the virtues knights embodied: courage under pressure, loyalty to team and mission, integrity in decision-making, and resilience in the face of adversity. Workshops, simulations, and case studies are modern equivalents of combat drills and moral instruction. We train not just for skill, but for character, the same principle that defined medieval knighthood. Even sports, scouting, and team-based programs echo these ideals. Athletes, scouts, and youth groups learn teamwork, honor, perseverance, and respect, practical, everyday applications of the knightly code. They face challenges, resolve conflicts, and develop discipline, just as squires did centuries ago. The knight lives on in these experiences, shaping character and courage in ways that transcend swords and armor. Military academies are perhaps the most direct inheritors of the knightly ethos. Cadets train rigorously, balancing physical skill with moral judgment, strategic thinking with ethical responsibility. Honor codes govern behavior, courage is tested, and leadership is forged in real-world scenarios. These institutions carry forward the practical and philosophical legacy of medieval knights, adapting ancient principles to contemporary challenges. The knight's influence also shapes innovation and entrepreneurship. Leadership is about risk, vision, and ethical decision-making, qualities knights exercised on battlefields and in courts. Innovators who act with courage, uphold integrity, and serve a larger mission embody the same ideals in modern contexts. The knight becomes a metaphorical blueprint for personal and organizational excellence. Ultimately, teaching knighthood is about instilling values that endure. The sword is gone, but the moral compass remains. Students, leaders, and citizens who embrace courage, loyalty, and honor contribute to societies that are stronger, fairer, and more resilient. Knighthood is not merely history, it is living philosophy applied in every era, every classroom, and every leadership challenge. The knight continues to ride, invisibly, in the education of the young, the guidance of mentors, and the shaping of leaders. He reminds us that heroism is cultivated, that virtue is practiced, and that the moral and practical lessons of centuries past remain essential to building a better future. Knights and the human heart, why their story endures forever. The knight survives not because of steel, battles, or kingdoms, but because of what he represents in the human heart. He embodies our deepest aspirations: courage in fear, loyalty in hardship, honor against temptation. He reminds us that even in an imperfect world, we can strive for greatness. Stories of knights captivate because they are emotional mirrors. We see our fears, our struggles, our moral dilemmas reflected in their battles. The thrill of facing overwhelming odds, the pain of failure, the triumph of virtue, these are experiences that resonate across centuries. Even distant from reality, knights validate the human desire to act rightly, to protect, to sacrifice, and to endure. Their endurance in culture is tied to our psychological need for heroes. Humans seek figures who personify ideals we aspire to but rarely achieve fully. Knights are imperfect yet noble, flawed yet striving, a duality that mirrors our own inner conflicts. In their stories, we rehearse moral courage, explore loyalty, and confront fear safely, vicariously, before applying lessons in our own lives. The knight also embodies the tension between mortality and legacy. He faces death constantly, yet his actions are designed to echo beyond his life. We are drawn to him because we, too, confront the fragility of existence and long to leave something enduring behind. Every act of bravery, every ethical choice, every effort to uphold values is a reflection of this timeless lesson. Romance, myth, and legend further strengthen his emotional resonance. Knights fight for love, justice, faith, and honor, universals that speak to the human spirit. Their victories and failures are not only physical but symbolic, dramatizing our own struggles with desire, temptation, and purpose. This is why knights continue to inspire art, literature, film, and games. Their stories touch the core of what it means to be human. Even when knights fail, we learn. Their hubris, misjudgments, or cruelty remind us that virtue requires constant vigilance and effort. Heroism is a path, not a guarantee. Moral courage is practiced, not inherited. The human heart resonates with this struggle because we, too, face choices that define character, legacy, and meaning. Knights endure because they represent both our potential and our striving. They are tangible expressions of intangible ideals. Every story, every retelling, every cultural echo reinforces the belief that we can rise above fear, act with integrity, and pursue something greater than ourselves. Ultimately, the knight persists because he is a symbol of hope. A hope that courage matters, that honor counts, that loyalty transforms, and that striving leaves a legacy. Even when centuries separate us from his world, even when history has erased the man, the idea of the knight remains alive in our hearts and imagination. In every ethical decision, every brave act, every pursuit of excellence, the knight rides beside us. He reminds us that heroism is chosen, that virtue is practiced, and that the human spirit can aspire to greatness even in the smallest of actions. He is gone from the battlefield, yet immortal in every heartbeat, every story, and every dream. The story of the knight is the story of humanity, flawed, striving, courageous, and eternally yearning for honor. And that is why we will never stop telling his tale, never stop learning from him, and never stop imagining what it means to ride with courage, fight for justice, and live with enduring honor. Knights in our daily lives, modern heroes among us. The knight rides still. Not in shining armor, not on horseback, not under banners. He rides in the quiet courage of ordinary people. He rides in those who face danger, injustice, or hardship and act with integrity. He rides in the everyday heroes whose names may never make history books, yet whose actions shape the world. Consider the firefighter running into flames while others flee. The nurse tending the sick during a pandemic, risking life for strangers. The teacher who goes beyond duty to lift children from despair to hope. The activist standing against oppression despite threats and ridicule. Each embodies the principles of knighthood, courage, loyalty, honor, and selfless service. Knights in daily life are not defined by spectacle, but by choice and character. They rise when fear whispers retreat. They act when convenience tempts compromise. They serve when recognition is absent, when no one watches, when rewards are uncertain. In these small, powerful acts, the medieval knight lives again. Leadership, too, is a modern battlefield. A CEO who protects employees' well-being over profit. A mayor who prioritizes justice over popularity. A community organizer who fights for fairness and safety. They lead like knights, balancing courage with wisdom, authority with ethical responsibility. Even within families and communities, knightly principles appear. Parents sacrificing time and energy to nurture children. Neighbors helping strangers without expectation of reward. Friends standing firm in loyalty, even when trust is tested. In each act, the archetype of the knight persists, reminding us that heroism is accessible to everyone. Modern society also requires knights in thought and action. Whistleblowers, ethical scientists, and principled judges act under risk to defend truth and justice. Their courage is intellectual and moral, their battlefield ethical dilemmas and systemic pressures. They are knights of the mind and spirit, facing unseen adversaries with steadfast principles. Sports, arts, and education cultivate knightly virtues in young hearts. Athletes, performers, and students learn resilience, discipline, and teamwork. Mentors train, guide, and inspire, just as medieval squires learned from experienced knights. The values endure because the lessons of courage, loyalty, and honor are timeless. Even acts of kindness are echoes of knighthood. Standing up against bullying, defending someone marginalized, helping a stranger, these are battles of conscience, fought without weapons, yet no less heroic. The knight survives in these actions, invisible but profoundly real. The medieval knight may have vanished from history, but his spirit rides in every person who chooses integrity over convenience, courage over fear, and service over selfishness. Every choice, every act, every ethical stand is a battlefield. Every individual who acts bravely, loyally, and honorably continues the legacy. The knight's story teaches that heroism is not confined to history or legend. It is alive in our communities, our workplaces, our families, and our hearts. And as long as humanity dares to act rightly, to defend others, and to strive for virtue, the knight rides among us, unseen but eternally present. Knights in imagination, how they inspire creativity, art, and storytelling. The knight is eternal because he lives not only in action but in imagination. Artists, writers, filmmakers, and creators draw from his essence to craft worlds that challenge, inspire, and move us. The clang of swords, the gleam of armor, the quest for honor, these are symbols that spark creativity across generations. In literature, knights are archetypes of human aspiration. From the epics of chivalry in medieval manuscripts to modern fantasy sagas, writers explore courage, loyalty, and moral struggle through knightly figures. Tolkien's Aragorn, Lewis's noble characters, and countless modern protagonists echo the same principles. Knights once embodied virtue tested by adversity, morality shaped by choice, heroism forged in struggle. Visual arts immortalize knights as well. Paintings, sculptures, and illustrations capture the drama of battle, the elegance of armor, and the solemnity of chivalric codes. These images do more than depict history, they symbolize ideals, creating a visual language of courage, honor, and struggle that transcends time and place. Film and television brought knights to life for millions. From epic sword and sorcery adventures to historically inspired dramas, audiences are captivated by their stories. Knights provide narrative tension and moral clarity, the perfect canvas for exploring themes of loyalty, sacrifice, ambition, and redemption. We watch, enthralled, because their victories and failures mirror our own moral and emotional journeys. Games, too, have embraced the knight archetype. Players step into the boots of warriors who face impossible odds, make consequential choices, and navigate ethical dilemmas. Interactive storytelling allows people to embody knightly virtues, practice courage, and weigh moral decisions firsthand. Through play, imagination becomes a laboratory for ethical reflection, bravery, and leadership. Knights also inspire modern creative innovation. Graphic novels, digital art, cosplay, and fanfiction all draw upon chivalric ideals, allowing communities worldwide to reinterpret knights for new contexts. Even music, poetry, and theater celebrate knightly themes: struggle, honor, loyalty, sacrifice, and the pursuit of a higher ideal. The knight remains a universal muse because he represents the human yearning to overcome, to aspire, and to act with virtue. Artists and audiences alike are drawn to his archetype because it condenses the human story into a powerful narrative: challenge, choice, and triumph through courage and morality. In every story, the knight teaches us about ourselves. He embodies the trials we face, the moral conflicts we wrestle with, and the heroism we hope to achieve. Even when centuries separate us from the Middle Ages, he lives in our imaginations, shaping our culture, our creativity, and our understanding of human potential. The knight is proof that imagination is as enduring as history. He rides across canvases, pages, screens, and minds, immortal not because of armor or swords, but because he reflects the highest ideals of the human spirit. And as long as humans tell stories, the knight will continue to inspire, to challenge, and to guide the imagination, endlessly and powerfully.